Children with disabilities. Some background information. The disabled population is the only at-risk population you can become a part of at any point in your life. The CDC estimates that 1 in 6 children in the United States have a developmental disability. An estimated 240 million children globally and 3 million children in the US have a disability. Uh, I found a couple of different definitions of children with disabilities, and these are the two that I chose. Children with disabilities are those who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairments, which in interaction with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis. Intellectual disability, hearing impairment, a speech or language impairment, visual impairment, a serious emotional disturbance, an orthopedic impairment, autism, a traumatic brain injury or TBI, or other health impairment, a specific learning disability, deaf blindness, or multiple disabilities, and who by reason thereof needs special education and related services. This population is considered at risk for a variety of reasons that include varied complex medical needs, healthcare disparities, different economic factors that could be related to their disability, social struggles, increased vulnerability to abuse and neglect, as well as discrimination and stigma in society. Society views this at-risk population in a variety of ways, depending on the person and the disability. There is often discrimination, marginalization, stigma, and stereotyping. Um, Children might face prejudices or exclusion, often due to misunderstandings or a lack of awareness. They can be viewed as burdensome to their caregivers and to society. They are often seen as deficits versus diverse members of society, helpless versus capable, sometimes heroes just for living their life and doing normal things. Uh, they are often sympathized, which can be helpful and hurtful. People can feel compassion for the child and their disability, but this can lead to additional support, increased funding, additional services. But children can also start to be seen as helpless or passive rather than capable. Disabled children are often viewed through the scope of their limitations rather than their potential. There are many barriers faced by disabled children uh, in education. There is inadequate access to proper education. There can be a lack of accommodations, a lack of inclusive environments and practices. Uh, and this isn't just educational needs, but also fostering an environment where children feel loved, valued, and respected. They may be set lower expectations. There are barriers to healthcare. There can be additional or higher need for specialized care, which can be unaffordable to many people. And unmet needs equal worsened health outcomes. Medical expenses can be astronomical. Caregiving responsibilities are heavy. Obviously, there are physical barriers which are everywhere. Inaccessibility is a real problem. Physical spaces can lack ramps, elevators, sensory friendly areas. They can face social barriers, isolation, bullying, and exclusion, often due to a lack of awareness or a misunderstanding. All of these tend to be related to systemic inadequacies. Funding and policies are lacking, to say the least, but people tend to do what they can with what they have. Specific needs from this for this population, highest being access to more public spaces, access to quality education, with properly trained and supported staff, access to accessible classrooms, with equipment and accessible practices, communication devices, quality, effective, comprehensive, whole person care, coordinated care, preparation for transitioning into adulthood, with independent living skills, vocational training, and employment services, and abuse prevention. Some resiliency factors of this population include self-esteem, feeling good about themselves, including their disability. That comes from being supported. Uh, Coping skills, having an optimistic outlook on life, having uh, parental support, loving and stable caregivers that promote independence, having a stable home environment, having an inclusive school environment, with strong connections with peers, teachers, therapists, and other supportive and safe adults who are encouraging. Early access to therapeutic interventions and quality interpersonal relationships. Some historic events that have greatly influenced this at risk population include Brown versus Board of Education, which granted access to public schools. Public schools can educate kids with significant intellectual disabilities, followed by the Medicaid assistance for people with disabilities and families with low incomes. Then the Education for Handicapped Children's Act, which entitled children with disabilities to free, adequate public education and granted federal funding for that. The Capitol Crawl protest happened, one of my favorite protests. About 1,000 protesters made their way from the White House to the Capitol, and about 60 people abandoned their mobility aids and began crawling up the Capitol steps to highlight the physical barriers that disabled people face in public spaces. That greatly influenced the ADA, the American with Disabilities Act. And the federal government made autism a special education category. And Rosa's Law in 2009, which replaced the term mental retardation with intellectual disability. Some resources in my area. the Kentucky Child Care Resource and Referral Network, the Access Pass. Those are all links that can be followed for your own personal research if you would like, and my resources. Thank you for listening.